Sony's purpose is to fill the world with emotion through the power of creativity and technology. In order to have people connected to each other through emotion, it is necessary to create a society in which everyone can live with peace of mind in a healthy, natural environment. The world is facing many challenges, so we must address them and continually take action. For people, we celebrate individual differences and enrich hearts and minds so that people can share emotion with one another. For society, we foster a society in which everyone can live with peace of mind so that emotion is amplified. For the earth, we protect and preserve the earth, which is the foundation of life, so that emotion is sustained. People, society, and the earth are all essential to fill the world with emotion. Since its founding, Sony has striven to be a company valued by people around the world. This fundamental approach is inherent in our culture and has been passed down to this day. With our actions, we strive to inspire a world filled with emotion. And hope such a world continues for this generation and beyond. Sony's sustainability vision. Inspire a world filled with emotion for this generation and beyond.
Hi, I'm Rich Ventura, the Vice President for Sony's Professional Display Organization, and I want to welcome you to a special edition of Sony's Tech Tuesday webinar series. We're joined by an exciting group of panelists where we'll be celebrating Earth Day and exploring best practices of sustainability in AV, as well as sustainability and overall technology. Sustainability is a core pillar of Sony's mission to inspire through innovative technology. While sustainability is deeply embedded across all aspects of all of our business today, today's webinar will hone specifically in on unique sustainability challenges and opportunities within the AV industry. I'm thrilled to be joined by a panel of experts who will share insights on driving sustainable practices in this dynamic field. Please allow me to first introduce the panelists. Keiko Yokoyama, Environmental Director from Sony Professional Display Solutions. Rob Badenoch, Partner from TAD Consulting. Tobi Tungl, Chief Marketing Officer from CTI. And Michael Rogers, Senior Sustainability Program Specialist at Crestron. So really quickly, I'll have each one of the panelists talk a little bit more about themselves and their organization. And we'll start with Michael.
Great. Thanks, Rich, for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Michael Rogers. I am the Senior Sustainability Specialist here at Crestron Electronics. I've been with the company a number of years, about a dozen years, mainly in the manufacturing supply chain sector. However, I transitioned into this new role a couple of years ago as a sustainability specialist. And, it's been exciting growing this effort from a grassroots initiative to more polished and integrative practice throughout the company. So my job is to make sure that my company is future ready and we adopt best practices regarding sustainability and try to spread that knowledge and intuition throughout the rest of the company. So I'm excited to talk more and hear more from everybody else. So thanks for having me.
Thanks, Michael. Tobi.
Thanks, Rich. I'm Tobi Tungl, Chief Marketing Officer at CTI. I get the opportunity to lead an incredible team focused on all things marketing and lead generation. The big thing for us is we're focused on a lifelong mission of making it matter. For folks that know me in the world, I'm an endurance athlete, and a lot of that really is focused on the long game. And when things get hard, to continue to push through it. So I'm super excited to be here and appreciate the invite.
Excellent. Thanks, Toby. Rob.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Sony. Rob Badenoch, partner at TAD, stands for Technology, Architecture, and Design. I'm moving into my 10th year at the firm. TAD is a multidisciplinary consultancy headquartered in New York, based also in London. Our clients are global, with verticals ranging from finance and entertainment, healthcare, and higher education. We work to set ourselves apart as consultants, providing not just design, but also strategy, not just in the built environment, but also content and applications. And we work not just as thinkers and advisors, but also challenged by our clients to demonstrate and prove. And to that end, as a partner at TAD, I lead our systems engineering, IT, and internal labs initiatives as well. And this is a big part of our new events and labs venue here in New York City. And so this is the environment in which I'm learning more and more every day from my peers here and our clients about, among other things, sustainability practices. So happy to be here and talk about that.
Excellent. Thanks, Rob. And last but not least, Keiko.
Thank you, Rich. And I'm really honored to be part of this excellent panelist today. I'm Keiko Yokoyama with Sony Professional Display Solutions. As an environmental director, I manage sustainability strategy for the company, as well as working with that product team and the corporate team out of Japan to really drive our Road to Zero environmental plan. So happy to be here and looking forward to more discussion.
Perfect.
Happy Earth Day as well.
Thank you. So, Rob, I'm going to start with you on the on the front end from a perspective of, why is a consultant concerned about this? I think that's like one of the biggest questions that people are going to ask us right away is, why do you have a consultant on here?
Great question. Thank you. I think the first answer I would like to give is that we might have the most outsized role in promoting sustainability by ideally being among the first invited to the table to talk about technology. For example, working as a consultant, not just working in design for the built environment, but also working in strategy. I have a heavy responsibility to address to the client what is the reason why the technology should be installed into a site. As someone who is independent of the manufacturers and does not stand under a dealership relationship to the products involved, I have the luxury of asking whether or not a large pixel canvas, for example, is even warranted. And if it is, what is the business purpose of it? And having answered that, what is the content that should be displayed on it? And then from those answers, we have a solid foundation in which to make real decisions about the ultimate power and heat consumption of these devices and dissipation of these devices, so that we're not just, as we've come to say, spraying a pixel hose on architectural interiors needlessly. Asking and addressing the question, what is the reason why, is the first role I think a consultant can play in our industry.
Okay. So, Toby, the consultants doing all this stuff, what's the role that you as an integrator are playing, and why does sustainability matter to you?
I think it goes back even 15 or 20 years ago, where a lot of customers were focused on take the black box out, throw it away, and put a new one in, right? And over the course of probably the last 5 to 10 years or so, we've seen a significant focus on just having better practices to be more eco-friendly. So when we have our awesome design engineers looking at projects for clients or our sales folks, we're looking at how to maximize that longevity, reduce the waste, and enable upgrade paths that aren't necessarily just rip and replace cycles that I think we've come too comfortable with over the last 20 years or so, at least part of my career, and seeing some of that change to really drive that change both for the customer perspective. It's also really budget conscious for them, so they can understand how to spend dollars, making sure that things are getting taken care of in a much longer strategy. Rob even touched on it a little bit. That strategy piece of understanding what that next 3 to 5 to 7 years looks like, and how to really drive that strategy with the client is super important. Also, on top of that is shifting from that, immediate procurement and supply chain perspective, and really focusing on how to bring that stuff back, how it's made through that sustainability piece, what the manufacturers have for sustainability practices as well, from practices where they're made, how they're recycled, and so on. So it really boils down to today, it's more about how that service piece looks, and no longer just about just price and performance from our perspective.
Okay. So, Keiko, in your role, you're touching across all of Sony, right? And so maybe talk a little bit more about the types of sustainability initiatives that Sony's doing.
Sure. So Sony has a wide range of electronics product along with other group companies. And under the Road to Zero umbrella, we have a common set of the environmental plan, which is outlined based on the 2050 for our environmental footprint to be zero throughout the product life cycle and the business activities. And recognizing the importance of the climate, we did bring in that climate change target specifically 10 years early. So now we're working toward the 2040 goals along with more midterm kind of a midterm goals that are more backcasted to kind of show us the roadmap of where we need to be. So we're focusing on the climate impact of the product as well as our operation and the supply chain. And then also we rely on that resources that are scarce. So the plastic, along with the plastic issues that causing in the environment, is a keen issue that we're dealing with. So promoting more recycling, working with the customers, things like that. The resource conservation is another pillar that are really keen to us. So this Earth Day, we are really focusing on the power of individuals who can contribute to make a difference. And we're looking at how we can communicate how to use our electronics more energy efficiently, and then how they can take part in recycling. And we're also partnering with an organization called For Ocean to help support cleanup of the ocean if when the customer register their product as well. So those are small ways to emphasize our initiative toward dealing with that ocean plastic issues, and that kind of all feed into that larger plan of the Road to Zero that has been our kind of a marching roadmap that we are aiming for.
Okay. So, Michael, I mean, just like us, Toby, do you have a question or comment? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought I heard something. So, Michael, from your side, obviously being another manufacturer and a major manufacturer like Sony, what are you all doing?
Yeah, well, Crestron Electronics, what Keiko was saying, we're in a similar boat where we have a vast product line, right? And it goes from everything from controls to lighting, the shades, AVs. So we wanted to make sure that that we understand that the biggest environmental impact that our company has is related to our products. And first and foremost, what we had to do was really define what does sustainability mean to us, because it could be such a broad topic sometimes when you look at things like ecological collapse and climate change. Well, what does it mean to a company like us? So we performed a double materiality assessment, and we're still going through the very fine tuning finishing process of that. But what we've come to realize is that through the end of that assessment, that some of our major sustainability topics that we need to address are, of course, climate change and circular economy. How can we design products to ensure that we're accounting for all the environmental and social impacts across its entire life cycle? So one of the more important initiatives that we started, which was the easiest, most hands-on things that we can do, is to look at the packaging first, and that's something that we've made some strides on over the past couple of years. Is eliminate as much plastic as we can, and if we can't eliminate that plastic, make sure that it's made from recycled content or it's recyclable. And what Toby was mentioning earlier was one of the most important R's in the top of the circular economy list of 10 R's is refuse, right? Make sure that we're using less resources to design our products and packaging, not just look at, well, how can we make things more sustainable? You can't recycle your way out of the mess that we're in. It's really all about, well, how do we minimize the way we design our products? Can we make things more modular? And then from there, obviously operational waste during our manufacturing process is something that's also very tangible, and these are the types of things that we have our hands on. But then go in a little deeper into designing our new products with these sustainability principles in mind, because that's really where the major environmental impact is going to be, not just how we the materials we use, but then how does a customer use that product? The electronic use of that product is a major component to all this. So we're looking to design our products with low power in mind and multiple power modes like standby, auto shutdown, things like that. So it's all about that life cycle perspective, and those are the types of priorities for me
Okay.
and Crestron.
Okay. So, Rob, when you guys are designing a space, a building, whatever you're designing, what are some of those sustainable AV design strategies that you've put in place over at TAD?
Well, a big part of it for us can be distilled into the client communications that we're responsible to lead, the discussions that we have to facilitate from the earliest inception of a project. If it has been determined that technologies are appropriate for certain areas of a facility, to understand not just what the capital costs are, but also the operational, not just CapEx, but also OpEx, helping the client understand, again, power, heat dissipation, but also the life cycle of the product. I think it was Toby who mentioned what happens after the ribbon ceremony, after the ribbon is cut, 5 years hence, 7 years hence, when everyone agrees that it looks quite dated and it deserves to be replaced. How successfully have we measured user engagement with the technology? And what decision making should be undertaken. And so a big part of what we do is educate the client, not just in the products and their impact on the environment and the surrounding facilities, but also understanding how they should be measured and what analytics can be derived from their usage over time so that we can be looking forward to the next cycle in the process. And we talk about measuring that widens the conversation to not just the physical installation, but also monitoring applications, one of which we enjoy deploying. Not just the AV technology, but also smart building sensor systems. And not just the content, the artful visuals, but also the mechanisms behind it that measure user interaction with the content, taking and adopting strategies used for mobile applications and applying them to architectural digital experience installations. These are delightful subjects for us. Talking early on with the client about these things, the distillation of it all is just understanding the life cycle, not just the first day.
I'm going to
So,
jump in here, Rich. I
yeah,
have
totally.
I have something because Rob, like you just nailed this for me, right? So the customers are demanding this up front, right? To your point, you can't fix this for what happened before, and Michael touched on this as well. It is something that I think that we really need to focus on for that optimization at scale, and the e-waste programs and all that. Like all that stuff is definitely a lag measure for it, but putting that first and foremost to the communication of the customer, you just nailed it. Rich, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but I
No,
just had to
no,
call that out. That is a
yeah.
point here that I think many people overlook when they're talking to their clients, and our clients from our side, they're demanding that conversation up front, which is something that all of us need to be aware of.
And tied to that, maybe asking all of you guys, is that being demanded regionally or globally? Are we seeing that demand happening in every market now? Because if we looked at it, Europe was always the first one, right? And the US were behind it. But are we seeing this happening globally now, or is it just still regional?
Oh, it's global. I've been tracking this data for a couple of years, and it started in Europe for sure because we have,
Mhm.
of course, a big presence in Europe. However, it's becoming um, more and more. You seeing some assessments from our customers asking about the manufacturing of our products, where we source our materials from, and those assessments have become more polished and and more formalized, especially from North American customers, Canada,
Okay.
and a lot of the commercial dealers and users want to measure the carbon output of the entire project, right? So the
Yeah.
whole life carbon is not just the the embodied carbon as well as the operational carbon. So they want to know everything about the products that they're installing into these buildings,
Mhm.
not just again not just the materials that were used and how they were manufactured, but what kind of power usage throughout their entire lifespan. So it's really important that manufacturers get a good handle on that data and be prepared for more and more of these customer inquiries.
What about from
Yeah,
a vertical perspective? Are you guys seeing any differences across our specific vertical markets jumping on this faster than others?
Yeah, government education has always been very in tune to these types of inquiries, but more and more you're starting to see hotels,
Okay.
even residential complexes, some apartment buildings, things like that are starting to become a little bit more intensive.
So, Rob, you were going to add something before I jumped right in front of you.
No, it just occurred to me one thing that can sort of regionalize some of these considerations historically since the war in Ukraine, for example, we've seen local energy costs creates different climates for
Mhm.
some of these. One region might be more concerned with power consumption than another, for example. And of
Yeah.
course, again, it's our job to educate not just the power consumption, but the surrounding building infrastructural implications that hinge on it. It occurred to me.
Okay. So I think one of the things that Toby talked on, Rob talked on, is the whole about e-waste management, right? And I think e-waste management is such a critical, crucial piece to this. And I know Keiko talked about some of the stuff that we're doing. I know Michael, the stuff you guys are. How are you approaching, or how are your customers bringing up the conversation on e-waste management? I mean, are they expecting you as an integrator now, or the manufacturer to have the programs, or are they working with other companies? What all are you seeing? And I'll kind of throw it out to all of you, and if any of you have comments on it.
I'll jump in. So we've got some programs in place here at CTI. There's certainly some drive and strategy from clients. It's pretty interesting, and it is by vertical. Certain verticals have different requirements on what e-waste looks like. But when we start to do a project and we do a handoff for that customer and do an external kickoff, we talk to them about, hey, we're going to be removing this gear, or if it's a new build, we're going to be doing different pieces with different pieces for recycling and so on and so forth, and how we handle that, right? And how we decommission potential. And Rob touched it earlier, that old LED wall that needs to be replaced. How we're going to take care of that, what we're going to do with it, what that looks like from a recycle perspective. And we work with a couple of partners. I mean, we obviously recycle it ourselves as an integrator, but we've got partners in all over the world that allow us to do that sustainably and actually make it so it's economically valuable to the client as well as us, and show them that, hey, this isn't going to go fill a landfill, right? So we've got processes in place. We're continuing to refine those on a daily basis, simply because as the manufacturers like Michael on the call, and you guys, Rich, continue to build new products, we want to make sure that you can recycle this product. We can take the hard materials out of them, put them back in there to make the next cool LED wall or touch panel or whatever that might be. And the big thing that I think people overlook, in my personal opinion, in my crazy year of working in IT and AV, is the actual cabling piece behind it for a lot of this stuff. Is they just throw it in dumpsters. And I tell you, that copper used to be worth a lot more than it is now, and it will probably go up and down a bunch of times. But I definitely strike the balance a lot with customers when we have those conversations of, hey, we're ripping something out. What are you doing with all the old cabling in the ceiling? Are you leaving it in there? Are you going to take care of it? There's a lot of codes around why you can and can't do that.
Yep.
But it takes it further behind just the equipment piece of it, and actually the infrastructure that's supporting it. And then you start going into the IT realm of IT closets and cabling and all that stuff behind it. There's just so much there that when you educate your clients on it, you become that subject matter expert, for lack of a better term, on driving what that recycling piece would be.
Yep.
Great. And
Oh,
I think,
sure.
Toby, you may have touched it earlier about the circular economy. I think that's another common kind of a hot topic that we are also refocusing on. And we do have a e-waste take back recycling program, but how can we assure that not just the material being recycled, but is that the best choice for sustainability? Can we have some of those product refurbished and diverted for reuse? Those are the new challenges that we are looking into. And I think the panelist here is part of the supply chain, and we'll be really looking forward to any partnership opportunity to explore those type of opportunity as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the key comment Keiko said there is the whole supply chain has to be working together doing this, right? It can't be just at the integrator level, the manufacturer level, the end user level, the consultant, the distributor. All of us have to have a piece of this. And what level obviously depends, but all of us have to have a piece of this entire thing. Um, what I'd like to kind of maybe dive into a little bit is let's talk about technology that's being deployed out there, right? What kind of sustainable technologies are being deployed out there? And maybe I'll start, Michael, on your side. From Crestron's perspective, are there new technologies, new innovations, new solutions that you guys have created that do have that focus on sustainability? I know you're doing things with your materials, but are there technologies themselves that are helping the sustainability story?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak a lot to the technical side of things, honestly, Rich, but from what I do like to focus on a lot with the product teams are our lighting and shading controls, because I actually did come from that space in the company,
Okay.
and there was a lot of opportunity there, especially with occupancy sensors, and then really kind of um, understanding the temperature in the location and how that can be regulated using shades and lighting together. I think that's the biggest opportunity for us for sure.
Okay.
And a lot of those systems do take low power to begin with. So if we can kind of help customers solve their own power problems, and that's just another bonus for us for sure.
Okay. Toby, how about from what you guys are seeing from technology you're deploying that's helping?
It's interesting. I started my career in the Bixby world of wanting to have everything connected, and AV was just this like forgotten thing that nobody wanted to talk about until AV over IP came around about 15 years ago or 20 years ago now, I guess. The big thing that we're focused on as an integrator, and we talk about it with Eric and Tim and everybody on our technical team, is how we can manage that, right? It's not just a KPI anymore. It's a lot of our systems are touching displays and energy stuff from HVAC and how we're actually, I call it passive energy burn. I guess there's probably a different term for that that's better, but buildings are learning when to sleep and when to actually have things open. Daylight harvesting's been around forever, but a lot of technology that we're using is just smarter, lower consumption products, right? Everything from displays and LED walls that take a fraction of what the old school plasma TVs, maybe I'm dating myself by saying that, back in the day. But realistically, customers want the data, but what do you do with it? So a lot of those products, we focus on how to show them that value, and what the true cost of ownership is. And then they want that visibility and being able to unlock the most intelligent decisions around what their buildings are doing, especially if they've got multiple locations where maybe they don't have potentially support staff, and why they're seeing certain rise in particularly energy use cases or platforms and things like that. And we rely a lot of our partner manufacturers to drive a lot of that innovation, because these products that they're making are getting more efficient, and just less power consumption. There's so much more AV over IP products today than there ever has been. And the fact that you can drive that from a network switch in the closet means it's clean power. It can be managed remotely and centrally, and you don't have to worry about all the other stuff that goes along with potentially what it was in the 1970s and 1980s.
Yep. Rob, what are you seeing from different technologies or solutions out there?
Well, Toby's remarks remind me our industry deserves some credit for so many of our devices moving over to converged cable plants and converged networks and software-defined networks. And what this means is that we can design systems much more flexibly that have their actual user programs defined logically rather than physically, which limits and eliminates, in some cases, waste, again, as these things are cycled through over time. And that cycling through over time is so much more crucial, especially since COVID, because of the volatility of workplace programming. None of us who says we know exactly what will happen to the workplace in the next 2 years can be said as being honest. So our clients, rightfully so, look to us not just for flexible solutions, but right-sized solutions that can then flex smartly over time. And so converged cabling systems and converged cable plants supporting software-defined networks is a big part of that. And then I'll repeat what I said earlier, which is then in turn measuring the usage of those systems effectively with smart building sensors, with our own monitoring application, and then deriving insights from those measurements to help our clients steer the ship accordingly. And that's when we learn that purpose-built devices to do some form of wireless sharing in a room, perhaps, have since been usurped by the native functionality built into Teams or Zoom Room. And we can say, we don't need to deploy new versions of those devices for the next round because we've measured our users seem to be just using the natural interface on their own device. So let's give ourselves some credit for adopting the IT industry standards, and if we can't beat them, join them, but also applying our own innovation to measure and confirm and then adapt accordingly.
Now, we definitely don't want to go down the AV versus IT conversation. I think that gets worn out, but I do agree. And I think if we look at what the pandemic has taught us is we don't need a million devices to do our jobs anymore. I look at the investments a lot of us have done, whether it's investments in Teams or Zoom or other platforms. There's the investments of things like, Crestron with XIO Cloud, device provisioning tools, all these different things. It's all about being able to do exactly what you guys are saying, right? Less less metal, more software, or more technologies to help make our jobs easier. Keiko, with your role, because you have a very unique role, and I think Michael does as well, is that you're not just about this subsection of Sony. You're kind of across multiple things. What are some things that you've seen from some of the groups when you look at the technologies that's been done to help innovate or help reduce those impacts on the environment? Are there any that maybe you can think of?
Um, for example, I think Sony has been focusing on the reducing the virgin plastic use in our product,
Mhm.
and we have developed the uniquely developed recycled plastic called Surplus, which is a unique frame retardant that allows the high content of the recycled resin up to 99%. But they initially kind of developed that, but it wasn't suitable for all wide range of the product category that we have. So then they started developing the specific resin suitable for mobile devices like the cameras versus specific resin that are still soplast but suitable for the audio application. So there has been the same recycled plastics using the same frame retardant, but it's been fascinating to kind of see how they are tweaking that kind of the makeup of it so that it is suitable for high quality of the different requirement each product category has. So that would be one area that I would say. Another area is that Sony is working on how we can kind of work with the upcoming technologies. So there is a Sony Innovation Fund environment that are specifically looking for upcoming environmental technologies. Not everything will be adopted into our product. We hope that is the case. But the team has been really looking into what are the next generation technologies that are really important for moving the needle for sustainabilities. And we learn a lot from those development as well.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that's really great to talk about surplus that I think is something important to say is not only is it recycled plastics, but we're using recycled water bottles, recycled optical discs. I mean, because you gotta remember, Sony, we made the optical disc, right? So we're recycling a lot of those products that we actually made and reusing that into our product. And there's even clothing that's made out of surplus. So it's not even just our displays and stuff. We're actually it's even being used in other tertiary products, which is really a great story to be said.
Yeah, definitely. Some of those professional displays do use the surplus,
Yes.
which stands for the sustainable oriented recycled plastic. So it's good to see those wider adoption of that specifically developed plastics.
So let's talk a little bit more internally on your business side. Let's talk about your leadership's direction. And Rob, I'm gonna start with you because we all know that this is important to TAD, right? But how's your leadership encouraging sustainable practices?
It's a good question. So within the firm, one of the first things I can report is that we're undertaking a global and firm-wide set of decisions on how we should use AI, how we should promote it, and how we should use it internally because of its outsized energy consumption. And we feel obligated to be a little bit thoughtful in that regard. And so that's a process that's underway currently. And that equips us to have smarter conversations with our own clients about applications and misapplications of the technology, which, as you all know, is quite energy intensive. Leading our design and engineering sides of our practices, we enjoy promoting internally a culture of shunning innovation and technology for technology's sake and for innovation's sake, and searching for simpler and pragmatic solutions when they exist, and not doing the fancy, cost-intensive solution for the sake of it being those things. And again, that's a luxurious standpoint that we have because we can recommend to a client that sometimes the best solution for an experience is no technology in some rare examples. And this is actually becoming less rare because certainly post-COVID, folks are living more and more of their workplace lives on these devices. And it happens more often that a touchdown environment where only 2 or 3 people are expected to interact does not need a dedicated wireless display conferencing system. promoting that level of thinking and understanding when the right size solution is appropriate and when technology for technology's sake is not appropriate is a big part of the culture that we try to strive for internally. We also, again, emphasize the importance of questioning the status quo, making sure that we know not every client's application requires the wow factor display or the large audiovisual experience is a big part of that. These are the internal initiatives that we very much want to sort of leak out to the wider world, so that we can put forward a bit of a differentiation of TAD versus others who might be regarded as technologists.
Okay. So Michael, I know Crestron has done some pretty good investment, obviously from a technology side, and a lot of changes you've done. But I also know you've taken a leadership position in being heavily involved with SAVE. And I know how important that is for you, and especially the certifications you guys have done. You want to talk a little bit about that, because I know that is something driven, not taken lightly within Crestron. I know that's driven up and down the organization.
Oh, indeed. Yeah. And what SAVE really helped us do in that SAVE certification event that we had last summer was help us develop some strategy. That's been really a big part of my role here, is to define what is our sustainability roadmap, short term and long term. And what SAVE does is that they use the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations as a backdrop to help drive the conversation and help us get better and understand what are the most relevant sustainability topics to our company, to our industry. And what we did after that certification program was develop some internal workshops that we meet monthly with a supply chain and manufacturing team, a team from the engineering group about product design, the HR team about the social programs and the volunteering that we do both internally and throughout our community, and also, not to pass this the facility um, workshop, which has been really good because that's where really we're able to make a lot of strides in the beginning, at least because we can look at all the places where we have operational control and become more efficient there. And like you touched earlier, Rich, after the pandemic, we realized that we have a lot of building space and we might not need it. So it was a lot of moving people around, consolidating, shutting lights off and HVAC off and things like that. So that strategy has really kind of helped us understand where we could become more efficient throughout the rest of our global footprint. So taking those, every time I go into one of those meetings, I always remind people to look at your job through a sustainability lens. Every decision you make, every task you perform has some kind of impact on people on the planet, and find some unique ways on how you can mitigate those impacts. And it doesn't have to be the big, huge project. Where's the low hanging fruit? Think of that first. Like Rob was mentioning, sometimes it's right under your nose and you might not realize it. As long as you're like I'd like to tell people, you're wearing your sustainability glasses. You might see that if you're thinking about those three pillars of sustainability, right? People, planet, and then economic. So that's really where SAVE has helped us. We're going to try to plan another one of those certification events this year to see what kind of progress have we made since last year, and then what kind of individual initiatives can we focus on with a little bit more rigor.
Okay. Okay. So Toby, with you being part of the leadership at CTI, I mean, what's the message that you guys are putting up and down the organization about sustainability?
At CTI, we talk about sustainability all the time. It's something that Eric, Matt, and Brandon and I are probably talking about 2 or 3 times a day right now, it seems like. It is something that's baked into how we design and deliver versus just a bolt-on or an afterthought for a lot of projects. It starts with how we build the systems. We talked about it earlier. We help clients avoid the rip and replace cycle by designing for the longevity, the long game, and energy efficiency and scalability around that. Smarter systems usually are fewer headaches, and just far less wasteful from that perspective. We've also leaned into remote first service and monitoring. Obviously, the fewer truck rolls we make, the smaller footprint we have in the environment. It's better for the environment, better for the client experience a lot of times if you can get remote monitoring access to it and reboot things and check things over from that perspective. Or perhaps instead of trying to get out there at the last minute, you can potentially help them in 5 minutes. We're also very intentional about the partners we're working with on this. Crestron, Sony, there's several others out there that are working with us hand in hand on a lot of what their practices are and bringing them back to our clients, making sure that we're aware of how you guys are manufacturing things for less power and environmental impact and so on. So I think the last piece to it is really, and we talked about e-waste and just all that fun stuff, but we're so focused on when we are upgrading, because there's a lot of clients that are working through upgrades or new construction that are moving stuff from other offices, that we're not just throwing it into a landfill. We're not just tossing it into the garbage bin and hoping for the best for it. We're building better processes around what that recycling looks like and how we're handling that. If it is repurposing or refurbishing for certain manufacturers, they take that, they can use it as spare parts. Especially during upgrades and refreshes, manufacturers like to look at what is happening with that. That could be through manufacturer trading programs, so on and so forth, and all that fun stuff. But a lot of that we dealt with during the pandemic as well from a trading perspective. But I think most importantly, we're all having that conversation. This is something that we talk about every day with our teams, with our clients, I think with our family members, even for that particular side. And it has to be part of the mindset with us, and it is at CTI from the top down.
And I think that's a great thing. Every one of you have said pretty much the same thing. This is not a one-time conversation that you're having just because we have a panel going on, right? It's part of the DNA and the conversations that we're all having every single time. There's a piece of sustainability in your message. Either sustainability of technology, sustainability of your business, sustainability of your people. But sustainability has to always be part of those conversations. But it's not easy, is it? I mean, this is not an easy conversation to have. And I think maybe I'll throw out to all of you is, how can we measure the impact of sustainability? I mean, what really are the metrics or benchmarks that are out there to help the industry really adopt and measure, are their practices actually working? Keiko, maybe I'll start with you. I mean, are there things that you've seen, whether they're standards or measurements that are out there?
Thank you. We do have our own matrix toward that Road to Zero plan, and we do have every 5 years kind of a green management target that stems from supply chain to our own manufacturing operation to distribution to product energy usage to how end of life impact. So we do have those numerical target that we are working toward. And then we are looking at adding the additional circularity KPI to monitor what are the amount of the recycled and circular material usage as an incoming kind of a material intake that we have, and then what are the diversion that we are driving for from the market. So traditional take back recycling service operation, but how we're driving those circular sales models and the business models as a future kind of a KPI. So that's kind of the newest project that I'm working on as we speak.
Okay. Busy projects. Rob, what do you see?
Well, Keiko provides some enthusiasm behind what we like to do. We love building dashboards at TAD for our clients. And one of the things we think our industry deserves to do is amplify some of the live data that can be made available from products like Keiko mentioned. So as an environmental signage and graphics initiative, it's interesting and delightful for the occupants of a facility to see how many tons of CO2 and how many kilowatts have been saved as a result of the products in the facility that they choose to work, having these initiatives and meeting these standards. And so it's a dashboard and signage and content and user experience design consideration to get the message across. And then from that, the business opportunity in our industry, especially for consultants and manufacturers and integrators, is it absolutely makes mandatory that TAD and others like us have to be the glue between disparate systems. We have to connect to the building management systems, the AV systems, the IT systems in telephony, and we have to be able to gather this information by filling the gaps between disparate systems to present this information usefully. So it's very easy for us to turn this into a business opportunity, taking advantage of some of the initiatives and sustainability strategies that Keiko mentions.
Okay. Michael, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a great topic. It's something that I've been really focused on, just like what Keiko was working on before when she was talking about circularity metrics. It's something that is very different across all different businesses, depending on the type of products that you manufacture. And it wasn't, circular economy has not been clearly defined to one standard that everybody can adopt. But what's really exciting is ISO just came out with their 59,000 series of standards, which is trying to do that, is trying to formalize how do you actually measure the circularity of your business model and your products. And we're working on using that as a guide to to help us measure things like durability, right? The recyclability, upgradability of our products, and to see if there's any areas for improvement over particular product categories, right? Um, so that's one big focus for us, and also what Rob was mentioning before about avoided emissions. That's something that people talk a lot about. When we're measuring our emissions right now across all scopes: scope 1, 2, and 3. Scope 3 being the value chain, but then scope 4 is what people start to talk about. It's not really clearly defined as scope 4, but scope 4 is avoided emissions. How is your business model contributing towards the user of your products avoiding energy usage, right? Which is what Crestron strives to do for the products that we design. So those are two. That's another very key metric that we want to focus on, because that's the business opportunity right there. That's something that can help set us apart, and we want to see where we can make improvements there, and help our customers solve any power consumption issues.
Okay. Toby, anything from the CTI side that we haven't already heard?
It sounds like we all love metrics, which I can totally get behind. So I dig it. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I would add to this was, if we're going to be real about it, certifications are kind of the starting point, not the scoreboard, right? I think we all agree we've got to track the actual energy usage, measure that system lifespan, the ROI, all that fun stuff behind it. But really, that piece has to plug and play into enterprise ESG goals, because if it doesn't, we're kind of just guessing, and we don't want to guess. We want to be the experts in the room driving some of that, right? And to me, that's the real KPI. It's not a marketing campaign. And the integrators from like where our world and where I stand, if we're not treating that as a true KPI instead of just a campaign or the hot thing to talk about, I think that it'll be a much different strategy for them in the next 2 to 3 years, in my personal opinion.
No, definitely. And I think that you hit it right on there. I mean, if we remember the last, we were talking about earlier when we had to do the RoHS certifications on product, right? There was specific KPIs you had to meet in order to be certified for RoHS or EPEAT or all the different things out there. I think you're dead on. I mean, certifications are critical in understanding those. So the question I got for each of you really is, what do you think our biggest challenge or your biggest concern when it comes to getting the AV industry to truly drive sustainability? It's a tough question, isn't it?
Yeah, I have so many concerns, Rich, but I don't know where to start. But I might as well try to start somewhere. I mean, it's really regulatory pressure, and especially for an electronics industry like us, the Sustainable Development Goals report from 2024 highlights e-waste as the fastest growing waste stream in the world. I was just looking up 80 million tons of e-waste will be generated annually by 2030. So for the UN to be talking about this on their report under that SDG 12, responsible consumption and production, our industry is on notice, and like we've been talking about before, it takes a network of people to solve these problems, and I'm glad we're all kind of talking and brainstorming together. And that's what I want to do. That's what Crestron wants to do, is just get closer to our supply chain, our customers, and come up with creative ways on how to solve that e-waste crisis together. And I find that to be the challenge, and not just climate change, of course, but e-waste is the challenge of our industry's lifetime.
Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'll add to that. Like, I think the biggest challenge, honestly, AV wasn't exactly built with sustainability in mind, right?
Mhm.
We're undoing decades of that rip and replace culture while trying to meet the rising client expectations for performance and the planet-friendly solutions that are out there. Standards are all over the place, and too often, like, sustainability is treated as a nice to have, and people are tending to look away from it. That's got to change. It's something I think a lot of organizations, like all of us on this call, are really focused on, and that's amazing. As an industry, we need to treat it like uptime. It's not negotiable, and it's measurable, and it's baked into every single phase of the project or rollout or whatever you're doing for that client every single day.
Yeah, the concern for e-waste really lays bare the challenge we have, which is how unpredictable and volatile our users' expectations are for their systems. The risk that we're designing with hardware and consumables and energy-intensive componentry, a function that is ultimately obsoleted because it's migrated to the cloud or to the desktop or to the user's own device. So we should be very careful, certainly in my world, to question what we think might be a good idea today as really essentially being, the world's fastest sailing vessel that is about to be obsoleted by the next steamship. And how many clipper ships are we building today that we should be looking at differently because we should be seeing them through the eyes of someone having to put them in the chipper 4 years hence?
Yeah, and I think maybe one thing to kind of dovetail off that a little bit is, while yes, all these cloud services are great, but those cloud services do go to a big building full of computers that draw a lot of energy. And so how do we balance that?
That's true. The data center designers among us would be quick to point out that those facilities are more likely to participate in renewable energy initiatives
Yep.
as compared to the multitudes of thousands of individual AV devices in a given office building. That's not an argument I'm equipped to support right now, but that's
Well, no,
one of
and
the
I know, and I
traditional.
think that's part of people are doing counterpoints on this, right? Saying, yes, I can go use the cloud, but isn't the cloud just going to a big building with a lot of computers in it? Well,
Right.
that goes back to the design of that space and all the things behind it. So it is that circular economy
Yeah.
and understand everything. So you have to think about every step of it, because those are the counterpoints that we all get, and so being able to speak to those are really critical. So Keiko, your thoughts?
Yeah, I was just going to add that the sustainability cannot be just done by the little team that I have as a sustainability department, right? It touches on the entire supply chain. Every aspect of the business can make a difference in the sustainability. I think a lot of time that traditionally we were fighting for, like, what are the latest and greatest technology specification versus sustainability features. And it's really thrilling to hear the customer demanding for sustainability, but how we can empower everyone within the company and partner with the supply chain partner like yourself today to really think about the area that they can influence, so that I think a lot of people will say, like, the ultimate sustainability to eliminate my type of job, right? Everybody's being the sustainability manager, so you no longer need someone dedicated for it. So I think how we can get everybody to really think a little bit about what are the touch points they have and how they can make a difference, and including the sustainability as part of the customer communications and offering the solution for it will be the challenge, but also the fun part of the job.
No, definitely. And so, first I want to thank each of you. I mean, there's a lot. This conversation can go on and on and on and on. And I know we have many conversations that you're having internally as well as externally, and events and shows. So, I think it's critical that those who want to learn more about the sustainability message, you've got these individuals on here. Go to their websites, connect them via LinkedIn. So, Toby, you're going to get 1 million LinkedIn requests now, just letting you know. But this is definitely a conversation that doesn't end when we get off of here, right? I mean, this is a constant conversation. And the fact that each one of your organizations have personnel that are focused on this, as well as a message internally, both up and down, and you're talking to your customers and your partners about this, that shows how critical this is. So I do want to thank each one of you. Definitely for those who are attending, continue to have the conversations afterwards. So please don't let this be the only conversation. As we look at going forward, there's a lot of things going on from the industry as well as within Sony. The next Tech Tuesday that will be coming up, we'll be looking deeper into our technology partner network, which Crestron is a big part of that, as well as quite a few other companies. And we do talk about the sustainability message from all of them. You also have shows coming up. I know we've got Infocom in June and other things, and that's another great opportunity to have conversations about sustainability. So I do want to thank each one of our panelists today, Michael, Toby, Rob, and Keiko, and thank everyone who's attended this. And we definitely look forward to having further conversations with all of you as we continue the road down to eliminate e-waste and find ways to increase our efficiencies. So thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Happy
you.
Earth Day.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you so much.
Sony always has the environment in mind, but will never give up on quality. This small pellet tells the story of an uncompromising path of exploration.
Generally, changing the material of a component means a change in quality of the sound. However, we have not given up on either the consideration for the environment or the high-level quality of the sound.
We are actively adopting recycled plastic, surplus. By continued improvements, we have achieved adaptability to various conditions, including appearance, heat resistance, size, and much more.
A single pellet with infinite possibilities continues to expand, changing forms, to continue to deliver Kondo emotion.